Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share insights on what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fumey, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have Adam Povlitz, the CEO of Anago Cleaning Systems. Adam, welcome to the show.
Hey, Frank, how you doing? Pleasure to be here.
Thanks. It's great to have you on here. So I like to kind of mix things up on the show. Typically, of course, the name of this podcast is the Emerging Franchise Brands, but I like to mix it up with franchise industry experts and people that come from all the different walks of life in franchising. And so Adam, 1,800 plus franchise locations. So you are definitely not an emerging franchise brand, started in 1989, but we're going to talk a little bit about what I think is particularly unique about your concept is master franchising. But let's start a little bit about you and the beginning and how you got involved with Anago.
Sure. So Anago was founded in 1989 by my father. I had no intention of getting into the family business, so to speak, but it was actually around 2009 when I was actually in corporate finance. I had actually just survived a big round of layoffs that was right after, the big 08-09 recession. And he gave me a call and said, you got to check this Anago thing out. I think I have the tiger by the tail. I got a great idea. And it was about 6 months later that I joined. And his first move, he goes, congratulations, you've left your highfalutin finance job and your first job at Anago. You're going to be a telemarketer by day and a franchisee's assistant at night cleaning a daycare.
And that's exactly how you're supposed to start out. I love it.
Exactly.
So it's been quite a ride.
So I did everything. I've cleaned buildings, I've done sales, I've done customer service, and that was before I even moved to the corporate offices. And then they sent me on the road and said, you don't know what the heck you're doing, so go learn something. And I kind of had to approach everything more from like a servant leadership role of, hey, here's what I know. I'm new to this space, but what can we do for you to, at the franchisee level of what can we do for you to make this business better? And I hope I continue that kind of trend forward of managing the business like that now as CEO.
Your dad did justice for you in having you do all those things. Wouldn't you agree? Because now you're the CEO of the company and you have done everything down to cleaning the offices. Like you've actually done the service. When you're interacting with franchisees, it's not like, oh gosh, it's the kid of the founder that's running the company. You did everything.
Yeah, I think that was his deliberate design. He goes, I don't want you coming in here like, oh, you're the founder's son or anything like that. There was no silver spoon. I would telemarket until 5:00 and then clock out, change into some blue jeans and my Anago t-shirt and some old sneakers. And then I was cleaning a daycare for a little while, for a few months. And this was pre-diaper genie stuff, man. These were like big, 20-gallon bags of diapers where you had to hold your breath before you could open the bin and tie it all off.
You roughed it, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. The name Anago, we got to hear the backstory on this thing.
So it is a kind of a weird name, right? Honestly, I think when we went to trademark it in Japanese, I want to say it means like some sort of eel. We found this out like much later, and you go, great. We named our franchise Sushi, but no. But side note, Anago is it is eel. It's a sushi. Anago, my father's Greek, my grandmother's like very like the old Greek woman, my big fat Greek wedding Greek. Right. And my dad heard the name. He was thinking about just typical names like, professional maintenance and, kind of generic sounding names. And he had a buddy who used that name for a medical service company. And he was, hey, do you mind if I use the name? It's kind of cool. It's unique. And he told his mom, my grandmother, and she goes, oh my gosh, she lit up. Oh my gosh. Do you know that name in Greek means blessed by God? So you
That's
can't,
it.
he goes, well, I can't go with anything else now. Um, but so then fun story is this was pre-internet, right? So, you just, whatever, if your mother tells you that's what it means, you listen to your mother. In going through the legal processes and trademark registrations, you have to understand the language of origin before you can register it.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean blessed by God,
Oh.
but yeah, I know. But it means something. It does mean something pretty cool. It means it has a Greek origin, and it means to guide or uplift. So we kind of use that as our mantra with our franchisees today. So we like to think that through small business ownership of owning an Anago franchise, we're helping to uplift their lives and guide them through the business ownership path. So it ended up being, still worked out pretty cool.
Yeah. So master franchising, let's get right into it. It's not something that I typically see a lot of franchisors do here in the US for the US. They usually, master franchise out, international expansion. Tell the audience why you guys master franchised out and a little bit about that.
I think one of the things we have to address, and I always have to address this, is master franchising to the uninitiated just sounds like cooler than regular franchise, right? Like, oh, you want a master franchise? It's like Disney and Disney Plus, right? It's like, it's just cooler. And it really is two totally distinct business models. So the way ours works, that's different from, say, like where a typical master franchise is more of like an area developer type function. Our master franchise and unit franchise, essentially the easiest way to think about it is when you think of commercial cleaning. I'm sure everyone that's listening to this podcast right now is thinking that the image that pops into their head is like the guy with, a vacuum or a mop and a bucket or something like that. When I say commercial cleaning, and that's fine. That guy, so to speak, is actually our unit franchise opportunity. And most commercial cleaning happens to be done at night. So what ends up happening is you have someone who's what we call a unit franchise. They're handling the nighttime aspects of the commercial cleaning business. They hire a crew, they buy the equipment, the chemicals, learn how to use it properly, make sure they're properly cleaning the offices and paying their people and addressing any concerns the customer has. But then the question arises, like, well, where did he get that account? Who's billing that customer? Where is his sales staff? Where is his website? Well, in our model, we've actually kind of segmented the daytime work and the nighttime work into two separate franchises. So the master franchise is sort of what I would say the white collar aspects in a blue collar business. So a master franchise has the website, they have the sales staff, they have the daytime customer service folks, and then they have the people who are doing the invoicing and collections of the invoicing of the customer invoices. So it's like the day job and the night job, if you will. And where it creates a very unique synergy is the master franchise is doing all of that and has zero cleaning staff. They have zero people that they employ at the master franchise level to do any cleaning. It is all sales and back office. And simultaneously, the unit is focusing solely on the cleaning and has zero sales staff, does not need accountants or collection agents or anything like that. And so it creates a cool synergy where everyone's saving a ton of money on overhead by relying on a function of the business on their respective, counter franchise.
That makes total sense. I like the way you explain that. Is the master franchisee sort of acting like a mini franchisor?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what they're doing. They're technically I think it's called a sub franchisor is the
Mm-hmm.
legal speak for that. But the way it works is, so a master franchise would own a particular region, right? So I live in South Florida. The master franchise region would be Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. So West Palm all the way down to Miami. That is owned by the master franchisor. In that territory, they have, again, the sales team and everything like that that's looking for cleaning clients. They sell unit franchises, who are people who kind of join the club, so to speak, and then pay a royalty on any cleaning contracts that the master sales team has gotten for the unit franchises in the area.
What is your role then as the franchisor to both the master franchise and the unit franchise?
The predominance of our relationship is directly with the master franchise. So if you think about it, if the unit is focusing on the kind of the health of the client, the master franchise is focused on bringing in new clients, the satisfaction of the clients, and the money collection. Our focus is sort of on industry trends, the technology, larger picture things like when a COVID happens, we're the ones making sure that, we're able to quickly pivot and focus on disinfection and the things that people were concerned about at the time. We happen to believe that, technology is sort of the way in this space, and it's not something that you typically associate, right? So you don't think janitor, technology, Elon Musk and brooms, it's not something you typically associate. And they're really from a service level standpoint. I don't think there's anything that differentiates any one, of the major players, one cleaning business or cleaning franchise from another, because we all have the same chemicals, we all have the same, microfiber mops and backpack vacuums. Where we differentiate ourselves is through the customer service portion, right? So we have some proprietary software called CleanCom, and if you have an issue, for example, with something that happens with your cleaning, you're able to take out your phone, take a picture of it, send it securely, privately as well. It doesn't give out your cell phone number to the franchisee that happens to be cleaning your building. If you don't speak the same language as them, it has Google Translate built in. It takes a picture. It has built-in escalation. So if they don't respond within a couple hours, it automatically escalates it to the master franchise.
Yeah, Adam, who knew that technology would play such a huge role in commercial cleaning, right?
You'd never think it would be so important, but I think where it becomes valuable is in the customer service piece. In most franchise models, you have what I would call 3 levels of experience, right? You have kind of, imagine you go out to a restaurant with your spouse, right? And you can have one of 3 experiences. You have a delightful experience, good food, good service. You have a terrible experience, right? The food's bad, they're cold, the waiter's a jerk, or you have sort of one of those uneventful, like meh experiences. In the cleaning space, you can only have one of 3 types of experiences. You either get to the office and go, all right, well, I got to work, and you're not thinking about the cleaning, or you get to the office and go, why the heck is my trash can full? Why are there smudges on my desk over here? So we really utilize the technology to focus on those moments where we are less than perfect. We're very people driven as a business, right? It's not something that, pros, you can't outsource our business model. Amazon's not coming to town to replace our business and put us out of business, because it has that people component. Mm-hmm. Cons, we're all human and we all make mistakes. So there's an inevitability of a mistake happening. And so we've used our technology to find when those moments happen, to make them as painless as possible for us to resolve them.
And what about the expansion of your company? I know I'm kind of segueing here, but I'm kind of, it keeps hitting me. You have 1,800 plus franchises. How much space is left? And is there more availability on the unit side or on the master side? Like where do you see this company going? What's left?
Funny that we're probably one of the, I would call us maybe the small to medium size in the industry. So I think there's a lot more room. We have, I know some let's just say unnamed competitors that have 8,000 and 10,000 unit franchisees and hundreds of master franchises. So sky's the limit. Haven't quite barely scratched the surface.
So Adam, let's talk a little bit about your team. How big is this team here when you're supporting that number of master franchise locations and with that many units? How big is the corporate team, and what are some of the major roles that you guys have?
So there's about roughly 30 of us here at the corporate office, which is kind of a big staff compared to some of my competitors. We're almost at like a 1-to-1 ratio of people at the corporate office to master franchise owners, just below maybe like 0.8. The primary functions, right? Obviously we have our C-suite, myself, the COO, chief strategy officer, that sort of stuff, marketing, accounting, your traditional roles. But I think our primary focus ends up being in what we call support. We just call it Master City support. And so that's probably one of my largest departments. There's about 8 folks across Master City support. And that's what their job quite literally is anytime there's any issue, whether it be technology or just wanting to understand a process better or needing a visit to help, see something hands-on. That's what our city support team does. For an industry that, that seems simple, like, mop in a bucket and clean the building, and how hard could it be? There are some complexities in it. And so we want to make sure that we have someone there who's able to give as much hand holding as needed until someone's ready to, walk and then run. and so on in their business.
Sure. Well, that extra layer of responsibility that you've implemented by awarding master franchises, it's created an incredible opportunity. But what about the responsibility on the franchisor side, on your side, on training and support of the master franchises? What does that look like?
So yeah, we do a lot of training. When someone buys a new master franchise, step one is there's that we call it. We're not very original with our naming convention, so we call it pre-training. And
Okay.
so literally, it's before they actually physically come to our office. There's about a half a dozen sessions they do just remotely with some of our team. Then they have an in-person training at our corporate office, which happens to be in the same building as our South Florida master franchise. So we kind of compare those together, and that's almost 2 weeks. I think it's 9 working days here,
Wow.
and they're learning everything. I mean, we're running sales appointments. They're learning how to do sell the unit franchise, learning the telemarketing, some of the financial, our systems, all that sort of stuff. And then when they get back into their own territory, then we have our franchise development team, which is, again, part of that larger support core. And someone is out in their territory with them about, call it 2-3 weeks after they're in my office. We like to give them like a week to just mentally decompress, because it's drinking from the fire hose, as you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
But then it's a couple weeks later. One of our field reps is out in the master franchises territory for a week, helping them just, checking in. Let's run some appointments together. How is things going? How are you having any trouble with anything in the system? And for the first year, that every other month we have a field rep that visits that master franchise. And of course, the entire time, they can call us any day. Everyone has everyone has our cell phone numbers and emails and that sort of stuff. We have a support ticketing system and all the kind of normal stuff. And it doesn't just drop off after that. Year 2, it's usually 3 to 4 visits. And then by year 3, it's, depending on, the need level, then it gets reduced to, 1 or 2 visits. But
Sure.
that's a ton of in-person support in addition to all the e-learning and Zoom and all that sort of stuff we do nowadays.
Yeah. Who is your ideal master franchise owner?
I think it reminds me of that old African proverb about, every day the lion wakes up and he has to run faster than the slowest gazelle, and every day the gazelle wakes up and he has to run faster than the fastest lion. But everybody wakes up and they're running. That person who's extremely driven. This is definitely a hunter mentality franchise, not so much a farmer franchise. This is not, if you build it, they will come. This is someone who wakes up every day and goes like, all right, what else can we get sold today? Who else can we get trained, as part of, our franchisees, and get them growing? It's someone who kind of is a self-motivated type person.
Sure. Hungry. And obviously,
Yes.
taking the initiative. Or your master franchise design, then it sounds like that they are absolutely in the business. They are running it. It's not manager operated.
We typically want master franchisees to be, owner operators. There definitely comes probably an investment level where someone could do it, where they're hiring, key people, but you would still need like a regional manager level person to manage the office if someone wanted to buy it as more of an investment. But there is somebody that needs to be there every day.
Yeah. And their biggest traits to being successful is they got to be that hunter. Like you said, sales and marketing is critical for them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
What about, what's the investment range for the franchise opportunity?
The master franchise is, call it 250 to 500,000, depending on market size and cost of a particular market. That's all in. And then at the unit franchise level, very low cost. A lot of times the entry level franchises, it's just a few $1,000 down. And then usually the master franchise is financing the balance. But that can range depending on how much business they want to come initially with their franchise package. So a lot of folks do it and say, I just want to start out part-time and I just want to do this as like a side hustle at the unit franchise level. That's extremely common. Our most common franchise levels sold is someone buying $2-3 grand a month of business, and it's just a side hustle. It's, hey, I want to make a couple extra bucks. My wife and I are looking to put our kid through, private school or whatever. And it scales from there. We definitely have people buying in that say, listen, I need a business that does $20,000, $30,000 a month. And that's available as well. I would say probably, we probably have some unit level franchises. The biggest one off the top of my head that I can think of just right now, she's doing somewhere around $1 million a year in revenue at the unit franchise level. So,
Wow.
even though it's unit franchise, it's big time.
I think some of the people listening to the show, though, most are, they're emerging franchisors looking to just grow their brand. There's going to be some people who are going to say, wow, I didn't think that master franchising was, wasn't even on the table for me. I never even thought about it. So with that said, what's one of the bigger challenges that you face as the franchisor when you have the three levels, the franchisor and the master and the unit level locations?
Yeah, so it's not, it's definitely not perfect, right?
Sure.
There are challenges as well. It's a challenge, but it also makes it so that you have to be laser focused. And that challenge is, in order to enact something at the system wide level, particularly to affect then the unit franchisees, you need to create serious buy-in at the master franchise level. If the master franchise in a particular market doesn't like what initiative we're working on, there's low likelihood that they're going to also pass that along and make sure their units are well trained and doing whatever that initiative is.
Right.
I would say it makes major initiatives move down to a much slower pace, because we have an FAC, we work through our FAC to then, here are the other master franchisees' thoughts and opinions. And it's definitely a little bit more like, maybe some of the lobbying on Capitol Hill, it feels like sometimes, where you're going like,
Of
can we win
course.
this guy over? What does he think? What does she think? But once an initiative is really thought through and ironed out at a level where we feel like we'll get mass buy-in at the master franchise level, I mean,
Mhm.
it's very buttoned up. There's not a lot of harebrained ideas that we're able to just throw something at the fence and see what sticks, kind of a thing. It's very much like, okay, we have to really think this through, test it out. We have some markets that are willing to do test trial runs for us, that sort of stuff, so that when an initiative is launched, it's the real deal.
That's really smart. I hope the folks that are listening that are thinking of getting involved in master franchising as out their concept realizes that if they think they have to communicate well as a franchisor, they think that's tough. When you have another level, it puts even a greater emphasis that we avoid, playing the game of telephone, right? Where you have a message
Yeah.
and that by the time it gets down to the unit level, it can be completely diluted. So getting buy-in is critical at the master level and making sure there's just phenomenal ongoing communication. What are you guys most proud of, Adam? You guys have built an enormous company over, decades now. You're well established.
You know, I would say recently we did an initiative when I was made CEO in 2015. We were somewhere in the neighborhood of, call it 30 million in system wide revenue by the time they were crazy enough to put me in charge. And I will admit that I would say I stumbled my way forward as CEO. I learned how to CEO by being one. Not it was a gift, because not a lot of people are given that opportunity. Also, it was baptism by fire. You just get thrown in and you got to figure it out. And we did well. I mean, we grew over probably six years ish. From there, we ended up getting to the mid 60 million in revenue, but it was 6 years, and we doubled in size. It was during COVID that kind of what is a leader got defined around here.
Yeah.
And we were proactively, I mean, we had system wide calls twice a week for months. And it really changed how I think my senior leadership team, how I look at, working with our master franchisees and unit franchisees. At the end of 2020, we were around 60 something million in system wide revenue. We kind of worked together with our FAC and with our executive team, and we came up with, we called it the $100 million challenge. We had 5 prongs that we were investing. We were investing back in our master franchisees. We said, you need to hire more salespeople. And if you hire them, we're going to give you royalty rebates. We want you to make sure you're training your salespeople. And if you train them and go through our preferred training program, we're gonna give you rebates on that. And we said, I wanted to grow the entire system to be $100 million system in less than 2 years. So basically, do it everything we had done the first 6 years, and do it again, and do it in 24 months. And we did it in 19. It was something where, like, I mean, it was all hands on deck. We were all rowing, all in the same direction. corporate office, master franchise, unit franchise. Everyone was bought in. My personal most impressive accomplishment that we were able to pull off here. And so now, of course, I'm the idiot who publicly, committed to our franchisees at the last conference. I said, we're calling it Vision 2028, and now we're going to triple that within the next 5 years. So we'd like to be we're not like to be, we are going to be a
Nice.
$300 million revenue system by 2028. You get a little bit of momentum on stuff like that. And it's just about, keeping the wheel rolling. What is it? The flywheel, getting the flywheel going faster and faster and faster. I'm not tooting my own horn, but I think I've learned better how to be a CEO in that span than I did in the first, 3/4 of my career.
What was one of the bigger challenges? I would imagine COVID had to be a big challenge for you guys, no?
Yeah, COVID was crazy. COVID, initially it was sort of, I think everybody thought about it as, what's going on in the world? Is this happening? Is this real? And then when sort of the lockdown started happening, it turned into, what do we do? These, the schools that we clean are closing, the offices that we clean are closing. It was a year where we had to completely pivot away from traditional services and move into disinfection. We had to literally become disinfection experts within 2 months. And we quite literally wrote the book on it now. We have an operating manual on how to properly disinfect procedures that has input from major PhDs and science folks and it's well above my pay grade, you know what I mean? But, the proper procedures and how to manage things like that so that, because the question during that period is how do you look at a desk and you go, how do I know if that's clean or disinfected, where like 99.9% of the germs are no longer alive on that surface? It's different. And so it was not only learning the proper procedures, but then also kind of winning the perception battle of like, how do we convey that to a customer when you look at it, that desk or that surface or that kitchen or whatever, and it looks the same, but ours is healthy, and this one is, maybe they use some, I don't know, white rag and wiped it down with some Windex or something. It's not the same. But we were able, through all of the efforts of kind of pivoting during that period, we didn't grow by anything special, but we grew during COVID. During 2020, I think we grew it was like 8% or something like that. And we were doing double digit growth before that. We did double digit growth after that. That year, as much as it wasn't what we'd hoped for, we were growing in a time where a lot of businesses were shuttering and struggling. And so for our industry, as much as it was a bad thing for the world, it ended up being, not so bad. We're very recession resistant industry. So
Sure.
it worked out all right. And we were able to pivot and keep the doors open for the master franchisees and ourselves and the units.
Obviously, so many companies closed down, but it made you a better company, right? You had to become an expert now in areas that you didn't think were so important. Let's go back to when you started out. Like, if you could go back in time and tell your younger self when you were starting out in the company, working for Dad, what would you tell yourself today?
Run. No. I think probably my two biggest takeaways, just in looking back over my career, is number one was don't be afraid to hire. I didn't know how to hire, frankly. And, I came in, it was my dad's team that was running the business. I worked my way up through the ranks. And then when I got to, the CEO spot, I got there by kind of just saying, okay, I'll handle this and I'll take on this and I'll take on that. Luckily, it didn't, I was able to manage a lot of different things. I'm a reasonably sharp person, I like to think. I was able to manage a lot of different aspects. But then it turned into something where, I didn't own a business. I had a fancy job, and it was, if I wanted to, take a vacation with my wife or something, it was, I'd break away, from dinner and take a phone call, or, she'd be out with the kids and I'd be back in the hotel room on a computer. And that's just no way to live especially when you're a business owner. For anyone looking to buy a franchise, buy it because you want to own a business. Don't buy yourself a job. You know what I mean? It was, and so even running a franchise, it was, I had a job. I read a book. It was called Who by Randy Street and Jeff Smart. And it was actually referred by my pastor. I go to a church in the local area, and they're growing really fast. They were like the sixth fastest growing church in the country at the time. And I asked him, I was like, how are you able to add, you've added key staff and all that? And I go, no, granted, like, your mission is a little bit higher than mine, being a church versus, cleaning buildings. I'm like, okay, I acknowledge that, the end goal is different, but, you've been able to hire some people and they've been great. And he told me about the book. And then stupid me, shame on me. I sat on it I bought it and sat on that book for about 6 months, and then finally read it. And I go, oh my gosh, I've been looking at hiring all wrong. And since reading that book, I've hired 7 senior level of executives in 2 years.
What did you read that changed you?
I think personally, it was when you're looking to hire people for your business, right? You're the expert. You're the founder if it's your business, or you've been in it for umpteen number of years and you know what you're doing. And so you're like, how can I convey my knowledge to someone else to be able to do it? Or if you're wanting to expand into something, right? I mentioned that we're very technology focused. I don't know anything about IT, and so how do I hire someone who's going to be a program designer? I don't know. What do I ask on the interview? Like, do you like programs? You know what I mean? So what that book was able to do for me is it gave me a methodology that I use for every single interview, every single hiring process. And you're able to kind of get a better feel for the person by asking there's sort of similar questions and asked in a different way. And there's a whole process. And I nerded out. And you know how the phones came out with a thing where like you can open your camera and it'll like scan the text
right
instead of taking a picture. I swear to you, man, I read the book and I read it. I'm like, ooh, that's good. Take a picture of the text. Ooh, that's good. Take a picture of the text. Turn the page. Oh, yeah, And then I actually asked my assistant, I go, hey, I have like 40 pictures, 50 pictures of text. Can you just compile that for me into like one document? And it does. It gave me the confidence that I can hire. I'm comfortable hiring for any position. You could say, Adam, you have to hire a senior R&D specialist for a pharmaceutical company. I probably could do an okay job at that, and I know nothing about it. That for me, just unlocking that confidence and that willingness to do it, I think was massive.
Well, how has that impacted the kind of people that you bring on?
I think the thought process that most people, come up with is you don't want to bring someone on and have it be, a bad hire, right? And I think this process helps you vet a person out pretty extensively before you bring them on. And it does weed out people who are probably going to be a bad fit. And better to take longer. My interview process, if you're going to come work at Anago, you're going to go through at least probably 5 rounds of interviews. And most people, frankly, just don't want to deal with that. And it's time consuming. But I'd rather have 5 interviews in advance and land a home run than do 1 or 2. And, 3 months, 6 months into it, you go, oh gosh, why did we hire this person? You know what I mean? It slows things down to get a deeper understanding of someone up front so that you hopefully don't, screw things up on the back end.
Yeah. I find that sometimes, there's assessment tools, there's surveys, there's obviously something like this where even if we can just eliminate the wrong hire, we're already setting ourselves up for a much greater chance of success. It's not necessarily that we're going to find the right person, but by eliminating the wrong person, it just gives us the greater probability.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What is now the vision for the company? Like how big is big and how long is it going to take to get there in your opinion?
So I think I mentioned, Vision 2028, there's my timeline. And within 5 years, we'd like to be at 300 million in system-wide revenue. In order to do that, it's actually a 9-pronged plan. Not everything is at once, but it's a major investment in our master franchise community and our unit franchise where we've, as I mentioned, we've invested in helping them hire sales and train them. We're about 80% through migrating to a brand new, like world-class CRM. We're in the process of creating an LMS platform so people can learn at their own pace, and we can easily, put continuing education topics out where someone can watch a 3-minute video, 5-minute video on their phone versus having to come and sit down for long, lengthy sessions. And we've invested heavily in a national accounts program that's doing actually very well, getting us into doors we otherwise couldn't, get into previously. And like I said, there's 9 of them. I'm not going to get into every single one of them, but there's it's heavy investment back into the franchise community, because at the end of the day, we know if they're growing, we're growing. And if they're making money, we're making money. It's very simple to think about it. And rather than trying to say, I'm sure there's some bad actors out there that are going like, how can I squeeze every penny out of my franchisees? And it's like, that's just not the way forward. Everyone, there has to be enough money for everyone to eat. And if everyone feels like they can, achieve whatever their goal is, then that's how you win as a brand.
Yeah. Amen to that. That's some great advice. What's advice that you give to folks that are thinking about joining you guys as a master franchise?
If someone's looking to be a master franchise, I guess the best way to say is, get ready, be hungry. It is something where you have to be very self-motivated. If you're someone where, you're used to having a boss tell you what to do, this isn't the franchise for you. If someone wants to be a master franchise and be successful, you have to look at it like you're the big dog and you're going to go to every corner in your neighborhood, so to speak. And it's that type of person we're looking for.
Yeah. Look, if they're not going to be sales driven and won't take the initiative, they're going to have a hell of a time.
Yeah, you don't want someone as a master franchise either that's coming on because they're sales driven, but that's all they know either. You know what I mean? Like, they are an enterprise business at that level, right? They're a franchisor. So it's not just like, okay, I'm a sales guy and I'm going to go sell. It's okay, we're going to coach you, we're going to teach you, we have all of it, but you need to manage the infrastructure in your master franchise region so that you're also a franchisor, which means you also need to be having, these initiatives in place to help grow your unit franchisees, make sure they know how to do all of the different types of services, learning the more profitable services than others, learning the different equipment. How do they hire at their level to find people to join the unit franchisees crew and get out there and clean and manage all of that? So it is, it's like we like to say we're a sales, marketing, and coaching franchise. So those are the three key pillars that someone needs to be focused on. If sales and marketing, customer service, and coaching, those are the three pillars. I chopped that off on accident, but if you can handle those three things, you're going to crush it as a master franchise.
All right. So they definitely need to be more well-rounded then as a business owner.
Yes.
And when we know not everybody that's good at sales is good at doing business coaching, right? I mean, those are different skill sets. So it takes a special person though to be successful in your model.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's been your biggest surprise in franchising? You've been at it for a while now.
My biggest surprise is some of the stuff that you see happening in the different political spheres around franchising. And I'm, shout out to the IFA folks. They're doing a great job just trying to make sure the folks over on Capitol Hill know how much we contribute to the American economy. Because I think people don't realize how much franchise, you hear franchise, you go, oh, big conglomerate. And it's like, yeah, but the guy that owns that, restaurant, that's a franchise brand, he owns 3 restaurants and he lives up the street from you.
Exactly.
So making sure people understand that franchising is not some national abyss. It's a local business owner that lives, in your community. My surprise is that, let's just say some places don't realize that and are still focused on tearing down the little guy, let's just say. And I'll leave it there without making it political.
Yeah, no, that's well said. I'm curious, thinking about your past, working under your dad and growing in the ranks of the company. Has there been maybe a piece of memorable advice that your dad gave you?
One of the things, we actually put it on our wall here. One of his quotes, and I swore he stole it from somebody, but we Googled it, and so far I can't find anybody else who said it. But he said, "The difference between good and excellent is a person's attention to detail." And in the cleaning space, I think that, that speaks volumes, and I think it's almost self-explanatory. But then when you start thinking about it in the customer service space, in the accounting space, whatever it may be, it really is. I mean, a lot of people can do a good job. I mean, what was that? The Good to Great, where he says, good is the enemy of great. Oh, there's a lot of talented people in the world that can do a good job. But the difference between getting from good to great, good to excellent, really is that, hey, if we screw something up on, cleaning a particular customer's office, it's, hey, not only are we going to fix it, but we're also going to go above and beyond and give you an extra something else to make sure we've acknowledged it. It's that little extra 1% that is literally the difference between, the Apple iPod, which completely destroyed the Sony Walkman. You got to decide what business you're in. Are you in the bringing music to consumers, or are you in the, portable CD business? You know what I mean? And so we we like to think we're in the business of clean and healthy environments for customers, wherever they may be and whatever the circumstances.
Right. No, that's great. If somebody wanted to learn about Anago Cleaning Systems and wanted to potentially be a master franchise owner or unit franchise owner, where would they go?
So our website is probably the best source for that. It's anagocleaning.com. That's ANAGO cleaning.com. And then if you're specifically looking to learn about master franchise opportunities, it's part of that site, but just a quick way to get there is anagomasters.com. And that can give your listeners everything they're looking for about looking for us for services, looking for us if they look to purchase a unit or master franchise opportunity. It's all there, Anago Cleaning and anagomasters.com.
Good stuff. All right, Adam, I like to finish with the thing I call the tip jar. So if there is an entrepreneur out there that's ready to franchise their concept and they're looking for some advice from an experienced franchisor like you, what would you tell them?
Particularly at the entrepreneurial level, I would say, well, it's definitely important to stay lean. You have to think for scale. Even if you're a startup, you have to look at yourself and say, what would happen though if I blew up and was doing, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue within a short period? What would your infrastructure look like? And build so that you're building toward that versus, if there's a lot of times there's manual processes and manual things where you go, oh, it's all held together by some duct tape and the 1 gallon accounting and don't do stuff like that. It's very easy to do that. Build now for what your potential is later.
That is perfectly said. Thank you so much for being on the show. I wish you all the continued success.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on, Frank.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.